Hey Froggy friends, Kirostyle here and welcome to Granblue Fantasy. This is the mobile game Granblue Fantasy, not the console game Granblue Fantasy Relink or the fighting game Granblue Fantasy vs. Rising. This is actually the mobile game, and I've actually been playing the mobile game for almost 8 years now, and it is currently the Granblue Fantasy 10th anniversary for the mobile game again. So I want to make this video because they came up with this cool page that lets you go back and look at your journey that you've taken in this game thus far, and I thought it'd be a good time to reminisce because this page is about to disappear and you won't be able to go check it again. So for those of you that don't know, Granblue Fantasy is a very popular Japanese mobile game. It's one of the most popular ones that there are. If you want to play it, there's actually an English language option. And there's one global server, so it's not like there's a separate server for North America compared to Japan. It's just one server overall. And you won't find it on your regular app store. Basically, the easiest way to play it is from your Google Chrome browser. You actually go to URL game.granbluefantasy.jp, and you can set the language to English and play it from there. But if you want to save your account, you need to make like a Mobage account. Which is basically the Cygames account, which is the company behind Granblue Fantasy and other mobile games as well. And the thing is, with Granblue, if you want to play it on your phone, the easiest way is to get another app called Skyleap. Now, again, you won't find Skyleap on a regular app store. You need to get the APK file and download it yourself. And Skyleap is basically just a glorified special phone internet browser app that is specifically meant for playing Granblue and other Cygames properties. So, Granblue Fantasy has been around for 10 years now, and every year during their anniversary month, which is March, they give away a whole bunch of free stuff. It's one of the most generous mobile games there are out there. They give you literally hundreds of free rolls in March, and every day you log in and you get like anywhere from 10 to 100 or more free rolls. And also every March they also run an anniversary event, which is usually a special event with a special story that gets released in segments. And today is just the last day of the 10th anniversary event, and today is March 21st. The event actually ends in a couple hours as of recording this video. And I really like Granblue because it has amazing music, it has amazing art style. I mean, those of you that have played Granblue Relink or Granblue Versus probably know. It also has really good characters, character writing, and story writing. Now, if you've played Dragalia Lost is a mobile game by Cygames as well that closed down, but basically Dragalia Lost was like what I would describe as Granblue Fantasy Light, or like Granblue Fantasy Miniature. It's got the same idea behind it. So you have a group of main characters, and if you've played Versus or Relink, you know Catalina, Rackham, Io, Rosetta, Eugen are kind of like the main story characters, and along with Lyria and Vern, of course, and your character, who is Gran or Jita, who you get to rename. And there's a main story that follows them, and the main story is, I would describe it kind of like Final Fantasy XIV's main story in that the beginning is very boring, it's kind of dry, it's kind of generic, it's a lot of world building and setup, and then once you get past a certain point, it gets really, really good. But Granblue also does new story events every month, and I think the story events every month are really, really good. They range from being silly and heartwarming, slice of life, or crazy, nonsensical, or very serious and heart-wrenching and dramatic. And there's really no in between, but they're all very good. There's a little bit of something for everyone. And so the story events, I think, are the best thing. And every story event, which usually, again, they usually have one per month, each story event focuses around different characters in the mobile game, because there's hundreds of characters that are in this mobile game. And I think that those monthly events are kind of the core of the game. Even if you're a casual player, you can still read the story, get to like the characters, and then farm out the monthly event. And it usually doesn't take too long to farm out. Unless you're super, super new, it might take long, of course. but you don't have to be super endgame ultra powerful to farm out the events usually. Now these monthly events usually only happen once a month, and usually they last for like a week or so, usually not like too long actually. And unfortunately, most of the time these events disappear, so they're time limited. So if you don't miss them, you don't get a chance to play them until they sometimes do reruns of events, or sometimes they add events to be permanently available, which is called like the side events, the side quests in the game. Or side stories, I think, sorry. Side stories is what they call them. I was like trying to think of it in my head. Those are when the events become permanently available, but there's usually a time period or a lockout period where the event is not available to replay. So I want to go through this one, or the stats section of this one, because I thought it was interesting, and this is the first time they've kind of done that for an anniversary, because again, it's their 10th anniversary. It's a pretty big one. For me, it's almost my 8th anniversary of playing Granblue. So here's the menu of the game, and right now the event is running. It's called Heart of the Sun. It's about to end in a few hours, but if I scroll down, there's a button here that says Heart of the Sun, Soar to the Cosmos. And so if I click on this, so they have a special video here for the event, Heart of the Sun. Each and every one of your memories is correct. All of them comprise your own unique truth. So lately, there's been a lot of events in the Granblue main story, because the main story is ongoing. They talk about like parallel universes. Granblue Versus has been touching upon this as well. The idea of parallel universes, the idea that every player's journey is canon, whether you recruit a certain character or not, which events you've done and which events you have not, they're all canon in that sense. Which is kind of neat, because when you play this game, you know, some of the events reference each other, or some of the events are long-going chain events, like the 4 Dragon Knights have a chain of events that involve them. And if you miss one, you miss out on a chunk of the story, and the game has to kind of summarize parts that you missed back to you without being too spoilery. So this one is Heart of the Sun. It's composed of 3 parts. Book 1, the Book of Sky Dwellers. Book 2, the Book of Primal Beasts. Book 3, the Book of Phoenix. So usually with the anniversary events, they release them in parts. So every couple weeks, then they add a new part of the story to kind of keep you going. And so they can release it in sections instead of releasing it all at once, because anniversary stories are usually a bit longer than regular story events. And it's kind of neat because this event references Festival of Falling Flame, which is one of the first Granblue Fantasy events. Actually, it is the first Granblue Fantasy event from 10 years ago. And the story events in Granblue, the monthly events, at the beginning they didn't really have very fantastic writing. They were pretty generic, and so it's kind of fun to look back. But Festival of Falling Flame was specifically about a primal beast named Phoenix. And so Heart of the Sun is an event about the Phoenix again. It's been 10 years since we saw the Phoenix in the very first Granblue event, so it's kind of a neat harkening back, and also brings back some of the characters that were involved in the first Granblue event. But it also references other Granblue events that we've had. So what makes the sky blue? I mentioned this one a lot if you've watched my Granblue Fantasy Versus or Relink videos. This is the most well-known set of anniversary events. They ran them, there are 3 of them, that ran in consecutive years. What Makes the Sky Blue, Part 1, What Makes the Sky Blue, Part 2, Paradise Lost, and What Makes the Sky Blue 30000, which these events introduce a lot of very important Granblue characters to the lore, very beloved characters, including Sandalphon, Belial, Lucilius, Beelzebub. So Paradise Lost, which is the second part of What Makes the Sky Blue, 000, which is the third part. This is another anniversary event that happened a couple years ago called Old Bond, and it introduces the 6 Dragons characters. And then this is last year's anniversary event, which is called And You, which also talks about parallel universes. It continues talking about the 6 dragons. Wait, no, sorry. Old Bond wasn't an anniversary event, but And You was, and it continues off the story of Old Bond. So this anniversary event kind of brings all of those together. And brings together both Sky Dwellers, Astrals, and Primal Beasts. But the coolest thing is here. Oh, you can't really see it here. Oops. Sorry, I have to like switch up my OBS if you want to see this. There's a little button here that says Your Journey at the bottom. And, sorry, whenever I tab out of the window, the sound goes off. That's just the way the game works. So if I click on the Your Journey button, it brings you to this neat summary about the game. So, Your Journey, retrace the path you've traveled thus far. So I started this game apparently on April 12th, 2016, so that means I've been playing this game for 2,865 days. My first character that I recruited, so the game lets you, like, your first character is like Catalina, and then they also give you a free R character named Walder, and then after that you get to roll on your own. Now, new players actually get a free SSR character now from a fixed pool, but back then when I played you didn't. So my first character was Hazen, who is an SR character that most people forgot about because he doesn't appear in that many events. My oldest friend is actually JJ in this game, and our longest serving crew was a crew that we made together, just a small group of us friends, JJ and Lily, and I think Lay was probably in it too, Euro. Good times, good times. I'm not in this crew anymore. I left it because I joined a competitive crew, but I still have a soft spot in my heart for Preskaya. The event with the highest honors, so that's basically the event that you farmed the most. And for me, that was And You, which is last year's anniversary event. Probably because anniversary events have more rewards for farming them, so you have to farm more, so it makes sense that it's one of the anniversary events that I farmed the most. Okay, here we go. Allies fought alongside the most. So my favorite character in the game is Ire. He's very Kiro aesthetic, if you know who he is. He actually came out just a couple months after I first started playing the game, and I didn't get him for a couple months after that. When he first came out, he was actually a limited character, even though he's in a regular gacha pool. Granblue's great because the pools that you can draw from are very predictable. Like, I know when the seasonal event banners are going to happen. Twice a month, they have double SSR rates, which is the best time to roll. It's very easy to know when something is going to come up that's going to be limited, and you have multiple chances to get it throughout the year. So my main element in the game is Earth, because Ire, my favorite character, is Earth element, so I became an Earth element main, because in Granblue, your main is like one of the 6 elements. So it makes sense that my allies I fought alongside the most are all Earth characters, Ire being the top one. The second one is a character named Thrio, or in Japanese her name's Sarasa. She's one of the Eternals alongside Siofon, Seox, Anre, Tuyen. She is the character that represents the axe weapon and also the number 3. And it's no wonder she's my second most used because she also has a really powerful attack that does a bunch of non-elemental damage, which is hard to come by in the game and is very good for farming, especially against slime. So I actually used her a lot for Slimes and Arcarum, which is another story mode. My third most character is Kaim, or Kame, depending on how you use the Japanese or English kind of pronunciation of his name. He's one of the Evokers, so the same group of characters that Nier comes from in Granblue Fantasy Versus. And he's also a very important Earth character, especially for keeping in the backline when you're trying to make a grid on a budget. So I also really like him as a character, so he is in my party a lot. So that makes sense. So that's for all characters I fought alongside the most. Now, Fire is not one of my strongest elements. In fact, it's probably one of my weaker ones. My first most used character is Frau, who's also an Evoker. So the Evoker characters, again, who are the same group as Nier, all have special abilities that make them really good for being on the back line. So in Granblue, the first character in your party is always Gran or Jita, depending on who you play as. Then you have 3 characters that fight alongside you for a total of 4. And then you have 2 characters on the back line or reserve who basically only come in when someone on the front line dies. And the Evokers are all characters that excel on the back line. So Frau is I like her, she's pretty cool. She's also a good healer, which is why I keep her in the back. My fire team, for the longest time, really struggled with healing. So my second most used character is Athena, who is a good defensive character, which again is good for survivability. And my third most used is Christmas Nemone, who I didn't really anticipate using that much, but then I found out how good she was and I got a copy of her, and she's basically really good at sustainability. She heals you, she makes you dodge, she protects you from status ailments, so I've been using her a lot. She's not one of my most favorite characters, but she's really useful to have in fire, so that's why she's definitely my top 3 there. Water allies, my first one is actually Fiora, or Catra in Japanese, who is also one of the Eternals. He represents the number 4 and the daggers weapon. You'll notice the Eternals and the Evokers are both really strong sets of characters in the game because they are characters that you don't get from the gacha. You actually have to farm for them, so they're pretty strong for that reason. And they're also very popular for that reason too. So Catra is, or Fiora, is one of my most used water characters. He's pretty useful. My second one is Vayne. You guys know Vayne from Granblue Fantasy Relink. I main him, and also he's slated to come out in Granblue versus Rising next month. I use him a lot as well. He's also a very good defensive character, which is good for keeping yourself alive. My third most used character is Vajra, who is one of the most powerful characters in water for a time. She's one of the Zodiac characters, so she's a character that every year they release a new Zodiac character, so she's the year of the dog. She's pretty strong too. Earth allies is the same as my allies I fought alongside the most in general, because again, Earth is the element I'm strongest in. Now wind allies, my first most used one is unfortunately Narmaya, and you guys know if you've played, or if you've watched my videos of Granblue Fantasy Versus and Granblue Relink, I've talked extensively about how I don't like Narmaya. She's one of my least favorite characters in the game. I won't talk about why now, because it'll be like a 20-minute rant, but if you go watch my Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising video, the one that has Narmaya in the thumbnail, I explain extensively, or the Granblue Relink Fate episodes video, where I do Narmaya's Fate episode. I'm just roasting her the entire time. And one of the reasons why, like, I don't like her as a character, I don't like her personality, I don't like her design, I don't like the way the fandom sexualizes her, but the game knows that she's very popular among the fans, so they released, one of the reasons why I don't like her is because they released really strong versions of her in Earth and Wind, and they're so strong that for a long period of time you're kind of forced to use her if you want to do any high-level content in those elements, because she was so essential. So unfortunately, because I'm an Earth main, to farm Earth things, you need to fight them with Wind elemental allies to have the advantage. So Wind is an important element for me for farming out what I need for Earth, and that means I was forced to use a lot of Narmaya in Wind, so she became my first most used. My second most used is Estariola, who's one of the Evokers. Just like the other Evokers, he's useful on the back lines, he's good as a healer. Wind doesn't have that many good healers that you can use on what we call full auto, basically when you fight a battle without having to constantly click buttons and it runs itself on its own. He's one of the best full auto wind healers, so I've been using him a lot. And third is Vayne, Halloween Vayne. Halloween Vayne's great for being on the back line as well as a reserve character because he buffs your party's defense. So I keep him back there for survivability in wind. Light, my first most used character is Geisenberger, also known as Burger for some people. He's one of the Evokers just like Nier, and he, again, like all the Evokers, he's very useful in the back line. He caps out the amount of damage that your characters can take on the front line against dark enemies, which you fight light enemies with. Or dark enemies which you fight with a light elemental party. So that's why he's first. Albert is number 3. He's one of my long-standing characters I've had for a long time. He was one of the characters I first liked going into the game. When I first joined the game, there weren't that many Ikemen characters. Second is Valentine's Aglovale, who's just a really good character for general purpose use. I don't really like Aglovale as a personality, so it's kind of unfortunate that he's here, but he's very useful as a unit. Dark is my second most powerful unit. My first most used character in Dark is Seox, of course, of the Eternals. The character that is very powerful, represents the number 6 and the Fists weapons. Very powerful character by all metrics, and he's also really cool. He's in Granblue Fantasy Versus. I like him a lot. My second most used character is Nier, who is, again, an evoker, which means she's very useful on the back line, and she's very powerful. My third most used character is Bowman, who's a character that, if you know Granblue lore, he has a very close standing relationship with the character Ire. So when he came out, I immediately wanted to use him because he's basically like having Ire, but in the dark element. In the game, you also get something called a perpetuity ring, which is a ring that you give to a character, and it basically buffs their stats. And unfortunately, you don't get very many of them, so you have to be choosy with them. A lot of people consider them wedding rings. You know how in gacha games, there's always like the wedding aspect or like the romance aspect. In Granblue, we don't really have a formal dating kind of system. What you can do, though, is you can talk to characters on special holidays like New Year's, Christmas, Halloween, Valentine's Day, White Day, and your birthday. A lot of people give rings to the characters that they either are very powerful and they use them in battle, or characters that they like. And to this day, I've only ever used one ring, and it's on Ire because he's my favorite character in the game. Back then, I also wanted to make Ire as strong as possible. He used to be one of the top characters in Earth for damage, but he's since fallen off the meta, and he's one of the worst characters now in Earth, which kind of sucks. But I gave him a ring because he's my favorite character, and I have since only given a ring to him because I feel like he is my only most favorite character. I could give one, I guess, to Vayne or Seox, but maybe in the future. Okay, so now we get to the event timeline. These are basically all the monthly events that Granblue has run over the years. And again, usually it's one per month, but not always. And the events usually are run for 1 week of the month, and then they disappear, and then eventually they get rerun, and then eventually they get added to side stories, which are like permanent events that you can go back and do whenever you want, and catch up on the ones that you have already done. So I've basically done every single event, except for the ones that never got rerun before I joined. But some of the events here are not shown. Like, for example, there are like a lot of collaboration events. Granblue does a lot of collaborations with anime, manga, other games, and those events are not shown on this timeline. They also show off some of the mini events we have here. Usually the Halloween, Christmas, and New Year's events are mini events that aren't actually full events, but they are included on this timeline. So let's just have a look at the events over the years, and it also shows you when you joined the game, which is kind of neat. So we have March 10th, 2014, Granblue Fantasy is created and launched. They have their first event, Festival of the Falling Flame, followed by The Cowardly Hero and Captive Princess, Priestess of the Dunes, Song of Serpent Island, and then our first summer event, The Dark Giant of the Blue Sea. The summer event's usually fun because it brings together a lot of characters that don't normally interact with one another. The Sleeping Island Giant, Blade of the Young Champion, Yesterday's Scars, and Tomorrow's Hope. Then we have our Halloween event, Phantasm Banquet. This one never got rerun. It's basically just a bunch of cutscenes stacked onto a regular occurring event, Unite and Fight. Unite and Fight in Japanese is known as Guild Wars. It's basically an event that it used to happen every 2 months, and now it used to happen every month, and now it's every 2 months. But it's a big competitive event where all the crews compete against each other to see who could raise the most honors, which are you basically just farm and see who's best at farming the game. It's very infamous because the top scoring crews get really good items that make you very powerful in the game, and some people basically no-life Granblue during that week and don't do anything else and go hardcore, so much so that the game actually implements a thing where the event actually closes each day at the end of the day in Japan time and then reopens the next morning in Japan time to force people to go to sleep because people are actually pulling all-nighters over this. A lot of people, it's an event that everyone kind of hates because it's so much farming and so much work, but yet everyone participates in and they make memes about it, and usually it's a good way to gauge how strong you are in the game by seeing how far you get. Defender's Oath was the first Dragon Knights event. So the Dragon Knights, like Lancelot, Vayne, Percival, Siegfried, get events almost every November. Christmas event, Winter Nights, Stardust Memories, and then Footprints on Sacred Ground was the first Society event. So the Society is Zeta, Vasaraga, Eustace, Beatrix, and other characters. And just like Dragon Knights, they are a recurring event, and they get one almost every end of December, early January. Teardrop in the Sand. Oh yeah, and Footprints on Sacred Ground was when they first introduced Zeta and Vasaraga, by the way. While Defender's Oath was they first introduced Lancelot, Vayne, and Siegfried. So 2015, Teardrop in the Sand, My First Valentine. First Valentine's event. They don't usually do an event for Valentine's in this game. Scattering Magic, and then Detective Barwa and the Jewel Resort Incident. So Detective Barwa is a group of events about a character named Barwa, and they're kind of mystery events, but they also have like some puzzles. And there's like, they're not recurring, but there's 3 of them. The Inner Light, So Close and Yet So Far. And then RoboMe is another recurring set of events as well, which is about a Super Sentai group. And So Close and Yet So Far is also a chain of events about characters named Romeo and Juliet, loosely based on Shakespeare. Summer event, Balmy Breeze and Foamy Deep. Fall of the Dragon. Then they never reran this one either, Villa de Shiro. I don't think it's actually like a real event. It was like a mini event. Heroes Return. Phantasm Banquet. Halloween again. The Girl Who Leapt Through Mountains. And then our annual Dragon Knights event, 4 Knights of Fallen Land. This one introduces Percival. Winter Duel Tournament. And then Outlying Sign. So they started doing New Year's events, and every New Year's event starts with the word Outlying Sign, and they don't always rerun them either. Gripping Freedom was another society event. This one introduces Eustace and Beatrix. And then 2016, we have the Freeze, 5 Flowers of Fate. That's an idol event about idol girls. And then the first Lowain event, Let's Hang, which is a funny, comical event about Lowain and his bros. This is where I started playing the game. I actually started playing the game during the Street Fighter V collab, and I actually got Ryu and Rashid as guest characters, but I wasn't able to get Chun-Li and Karen because I was too new. Boots and Blades, Miscolored Memories. I remember these events very fondly because I just started Granblue around the time. RoboMe Generations, then another summer event, A Slice of Summer, followed by Detective Barwa and the Unfortunate Fortune. By Any Other Name is another Romeo and Juliet event. Phantasm Banquet, Carnival of Whimsy, A Piece of the Pie, Between Frost and Flame, another Dragon Knights event. This one focuses more on Percival and his brother, Aglovale. Winter Duel Tournament, Snowfall Brawl, followed by Outlying Sign, 2016. And then Platinum Sky, that was an event about racing cars in a fantasy setting, so they're more like racing sky cars. Features the society in it, but I wouldn't specifically call it a society event. Eye of the Storm, and then we have the 2017 anniversary event, What Makes the Sky Blue. This was the first big anniversary event Granblue did, and focuses more on Lyria. She becomes a playable character for the first time. Also introduces Sandalphon for the first time as well. Table for 6 is another Lowain event. Alchemist Astray is a Cagliostro event. Little Skyfarer a la Sacra Blumiel is Charlotta's event. Ranger Sign Bravo. Poacher's Day is a summer event. This one is the first event to feature my favorite character, Ire, in an event. He just got his summer version that summer. Lonesome Dragoness, Violet's Violence, and then Halloween Party, Lost Jack and the Mystic Pyre. Forgiveness and Gratitude is an event centering around Yule and Sochette. Divergent Knighthoods is another Dragon Knights event. This one introduces Arthur and Mordred. Granblue Carol, Outlying Sign 2017, and then right behind you is another big society event. This is where they start kind of bringing all the society events together into one big cohesive story. Instead of, before they were kind of separated stories that didn't have a link to each other. Outlying Anxiety, another kind of New Year's event based around the Zodiac characters. What Makes the Sky Blue 2 Paradise Lost anniversary event. This one makes Sandalphon a playable character. RoboMe Z, 1,000 Reasons. This is actually a really cool event. It's about a bunch of fist fighters coming together and doing a big fighting tournament. Handsome Gorilla is Lunalu's first event. It's about her and her friends coming together to make a doujinshi for an artist alley in a convention, and it's actually a very sweet and funny slice of life that hits home for a lot of artists. Together in Song. Then we have another summer event, Bzz, Amped Up Summer. The Other Side of the Sky, Make Up and Go. And then Halloween Night, Fistful of Befuddled Fun. Then we have a more slice of life Dragon Knights event, Welcome to Bistro Fiendrak, where they run a bistro together. Reflections for White Clover, Auld Lang Syne, and then Second Advent is another society event. The Many Lives of Cats is a very sweet slice of life sort of event. Then Anniversary Time again, What Makes the Sky Blue 300. This one is the one that marks Lucilius as a playable character, or not as playable, as a boss. It introduces Lucilius as a boss. Lucilius is not playable. Then another Lowain event, A Walk on the Wild Side. Primal Resonance, No Rain, No Rainbow is Ladiva's event. Even though Ladiva had existed for a while, this is where Ladiva got her own event. Around here is also where they announced Ladiva for Granblue Versus. To coincide with that, the May Days was a summer event about the characters from What Makes the Sky Blue, and it's basically a parody of Sharknado. we actually had 2 summer events that summer, Kappa Summer Chronicle. And we had a Bollywood event, Dancing Avengers, Flames of the Heart. They actually had like musical numbers and everything. Siegfried, another Dragon Knights event centering around Siegfried. Ko and the Hollow Existence is another Yule and Sochette event. Platinum Sky 2, more racing cars, an Elegy for Auld Lang Syne. Then we have our society event for the year, Spaghetti Syndrome. Seeds of Redemption was a anniversary event centering around the Eternals characters. A lot of people didn't like the story of this one, and I totally get it. But it was the first time we actually got an Eternals event, so it was kind of nice to see them together. Sturm and Drang, A Mercenary's Life. The Art of Mercy. This one was like almost like a Three Kingdoms, like Dynasty Warriors type event, The Art of Mercy. The DOS, End of the Line Farewell Tour, was about a rock band. Hot Summer Fete, Eating Bonanza, summer event. My Beloved August, another summer event. Good Night Till It Be Morrow, another Romeo and Juliet event. Savior of Dalmor, another Dragon Knights event, but this one about Gawain, who isn't really a Dragon Knight character, but he is. It's complicated. Alchemist Desires, another Cagliostro event. Paluli Paruraiha, and then Auld Lang Fry Premium. They start introducing the running gag of fighting giant fried shrimp that transform into mechas. Don't ask. Robomi Epic Clash, Super Robo Gigantus vs. Arbitrator Zoe. Zoe kind of stars in this event for the first time as a collaboration with the Robomi characters. 2021, A Tale of Kindled Bonds. And then our anniversary event for the year, Home Sweet Moon. This was the conclusion of the society events and has a bit more focus on Eustace, and this is also when Eustace was announced for Granblue Versus. The Divine Generals Assembly, another character about the Zodiac characters like Anila. False Heroes. Showtime, Legend of the Blue Yonder. Here's a summer event. That time, a 37-year-old former Imperial soldier got his life in order by awakening to the greatness that is saunas. This was actually a wholesome, funny little event. August of the Dead, another summer event that was a zombie apocalypse parody. The Dragon Blood War. The Strength to Wield, which is another Dragon Knights event. Imagination Overdrive, another Lunalu event about her and her doujinshis. Marionette Stars is another newly introduced set of events that also got a sequel, and I think it's slated to be the next long-running series like Dragon Knights and Society. Auld Lang Syne, the Room Cone War. In this New Year's event, you actually get to pick a side based on like whether you like mushrooms or pine cone-shaped chocolates more or something like that, which is a Japanese thing. Old Bond, Six Dragons event. Then 2022, we had Ramen Travels with Cassius. This is a kind of an epilogue to the Society events. Created by the Stars, Loved by the Skies was an anniversary event centered around Zoe. A Sweltering Eternal Getaway. Freedom's Dirge. A Ballad of Unbending Chivalry. Zodiac Camp, the second Divine Generals Assembly, another Zodiac characters event. Sincerely, Your Dearest Friend. This was an interesting one, actually. Full Metal Man, The Last Mission 7. To Each His Ideal, which is a... That was another Dragon Knights event. Falsetto in the Autumn Grey. Prayers. Auld Lang Syne, Age of Tyranno, which is a dinosaur-themed New Year's event. The Magnificent Mole Troop, which is a What Makes the Sky Blue epilogue, slice-of-life, heartwarming story that a lot of people liked. 2023, Shero's Mascot, Let's Go. And then we had our anniversary event for that year, And You, a very heartwarming event about the 6 dragons. Another Lowain event, Definitive Dandyism. Song of the Strings. Only You in All the World. Then, that time, a 37-year-old former Imperial soldier expanded his horizons through the experience that is Saunas, a sequel to the other event. Mermaid Princess and the Sea Legend, summer event. Unbound Asterism is a sequel to Marionette Stars. The Dragon Weeps Before Daybreak, another Dragon Knights event. Hope from a Snowdrop. Detective Barwa and the Escape from Storm Island. This is actually a really interesting, like, murder mystery type event. Auld Lang Syne Ultimate Showdown, Tuna versus Salmon. This was a New Year's event where you got to choose whether you were on Team Tuna or Team Salmon and fight it out. Tira's Bizarre Misadventure. And we're in 2024 with Fiery Soul, Dreamer's Miracle, which is another slice of life event about comedy duos. And then we had this event, Heart of the Sun, which is our anniversary event for the year. For 10 years we have journeyed, yet unknown skies still await. Pretty cool. Kind of cool to see all the different events back-to-back listed and showing you when you join the game as well. Hey, so this part of the video is being recorded after Granblue 10th Anniversary month has ended. I just kind of want to show off which characters I have, and I thought it'd be best if I waited until after all the free rolls in order to do that. So let's take a little trip down memory lane and see who I have. So again, I've been playing this for 8 years now, so I have a lot of the characters, and people ask me a lot of times, like, how do you get so many characters, or are you a whale in this game? Which I am not. I would consider myself a dolphin, so what that means is I only spend money here and there sometimes, usually not on rolls. So, I talked about this before, but Granblue has something called sparking, where if you roll 300 times on the same banner, then you get a guaranteed pick of something that's right up on the banner. And Granblue has actually kind of been the originator of this so-called sparking, so that other gacha games, sometimes people would call it sparking, if you have to roll X number of times on a banner and get a free pick off the banner. The history behind this is because one year during the New Year, Granblue released one of their Zodiac characters, Andira, the monkey Zodiac, and there was a guy that wanted her so badly, he rolled and ended up spending basically thousands of dollars. Like, if you converted all the Japanese yen to American dollars, it was thousands of dollars. And he still didn't get Andira, and so people call it Monkeygate because it kind of revealed that gacha games are very predatory. So Japan basically instated a new law that stated that you had to state your exact percentages for everything in a gacha, which at the time was not commonplace. So Granblue stated all their rates and also added in the sparking system. So Granblue is actually the originator of sparking. I have tasted the disappointment very early on when playing this game of saving up my rolls, seeing something I want released, and then spending all my rolls and not getting it. So I was so disappointed that I vowed that I will only roll if I am sparking to guarantee that I get the item that I want, and if I happen to roll it before reaching 300, then great, then I saved my spark. And the nice thing about Granblue is because it's actually a really generous game, they give you a lot of free currency that I can pretty much comfortably spark 2 or 3 times a year, usually, just from free rolls being saved up. And once in a while, I'll spend a little bit of money whenever they have a surprise ticket, which is basically an opportunity once every 2 months or so. It used to be almost like every month or every month and a half, but they've since increased it. It's almost 2 or 3 months now. But you could just pay and you can pick any character from the regular gacha that you can pick up just by shelling out a little bit of money. Sometimes they also have Star Gacha, which is where you pay and then you get a 10 roll that has a guaranteed SSR from a certain pool, and I'll sometimes do those if I have a good chance of getting something new. But other than that, I actually don't spend money on this game. So here are my characters, and I've accrued a lot over the years, and I've been very selective about who I spark and who I surprise ticket as well. Now, at the beginning, I did a lot of rolls and picks for characters that I liked, and now as I go on, I pretty much only spark for seasonal characters, which the nice thing is Granblue is very predictable about seasonal releases. Valentine's Day, anniversary time, summertime, Halloween, Christmas are the only times that you get seasonal, limited run characters. Any other characters that get introduced are more or less permanently part of the pool. So you can kind of plan around that and just make sure that at least I save up so I have enough come summer or Halloween, Christmas to roll. Sometimes by the time Valentine's Day comes along, I'm usually a little bit short on rolls, but sometimes I'll save up if I don't see anything good during Halloween and Christmas, and I'll have enough for a spark during Valentine's. And if I want any grand characters, which are characters that are only available during the galas in the middle and at the end of the month, I'll usually try to be selective about rolling on a seasonal banner and make sure that I pick up the grand along the way. So if I think that I can roll the new, let's say, Valentine's character in the 300 rolls, then I can use the spark pick to pick the grand character. So that's kind of been my strategy. It's basically about trying to maximize the number of things that you get from a spark. So a lot of my friends get really lucky and roll right away, and they always get stuff, and I just don't have that luck, so that's why I have to depend on sparks. So I've done about 33 sparks thus far, and they're pretty much all on galas. There's a couple times where I'll spark on a non-gala if I get a whole bunch of free rolls and I get somewhere between the 200 and 300 range of sparks, and I'm like, well, I might as well finish the spark, usually during anniversary or during New Year's when they give you a lot of free rolls. So I'm an Earth main, so for a long time I went straight into Earth. When I first started the game, I kind of did more picks of characters based on characters I liked, but as I got stronger and stronger and it was easier to get the characters I liked, I started going towards the meta a little bit and picking characters that were strong. In terms of Earth characters, I used to try to collect them all. I've been a little bit more lax lately, but I'm actually doing pretty good. So if I have the only Earth characters I'm missing are 3 seasonal units, so that's Summer Rosetta, Halloween Dante, and Christmas Clarice, none of which are super powerful on the meta level. I do kind of want Rosetta just because she's pretty, and I like Rosetta as a character. And I'm also missing Paris, who's one of the newer Earth characters, but other than that, I actually have all the Earth characters in the game, the SSRs at least. So that's pretty good. And I also have pretty much all the SR characters in the game except for a couple seasonals and special promotional characters or event characters that I missed. So from the seasonal SR characters I'm missing these ones: Summer Helner, Yukata, Uisis, Summer Almeida, and Summer Camus. So not too bad, and not characters I terribly miss anyways. So let's look through the characters. I've sorted this based on rarity levels, so they'll show the SSRs, then the SRs, then the Rs. And they're mostly in the order that they were released in the game, although there's a couple exceptions, like the Eternals and the Evokers, which are a little bit off. So of course we start off with some of the old characters in the game. I haven't had too many updates since then, or they've gotten their 5-star uncaps, and that's kind of it. The Eternals, I have all of them, and I've transcended a few of them, although I haven't gotten any to 150 yet. But the nice thing is I don't need to roll on the Classic banner or the Classic 2 banner to get old characters that are no longer part of the regular pool. Here's where Ire came out. He came out alongside a bunch of these other characters, and originally he was supposed to be limited. So Halicena, Dark Jean, Korwa, Aliza, Ire, and I can't remember if Nemine is one of them. I think she might have been. Were all originally supposed to be limited characters, so they released them for one banner and then they disappeared. And then months later, they decided that was a bad idea to have characters that were non-seasonal unlimited banners, so then they added them to the regular pool. So Lucio and Mahira are actually the reason why I don't have, or I don't do rules on non-Spark banners. Because when Lucio came out, I wanted him because he was cool. And up until that point, Lucifer was just a summon in the game. So I was like, cool, he's playable now. So I wanted to roll for him. So I had about 150 rolls set up. I rolled, and I didn't get him. I was like, darn it. And then this was during New Year, so the banner change rolled over from end of December to beginning of January, and then they unveiled Mahira, who is a Earth Zodiac character for Year of the Chicken, and she was really good, because Earth at the time, I was trying to become an Earth Lord, did not have a good buffer. The only buffer they had was SR Gain or SSR Cagliostro at level 100, which I didn't have, and back then leveling to 100 took a long time. So Mahira was finally like an Earth buffer that was actually really good. And so I was like, darn it, I can't get her because I spent all my rolls on Lucio. And then back then, Zodiac characters, the intention is Zodiac characters stay for the duration of their year and then they disappear after. So they're supposed to be limited. Back then, Earth, like Zodiac characters, appeared during New Year's and then they disappear until like June. So the next time I could get her was June. I had to spend 6 months without her, which was pretty painful as trying to get into being a strong Earth player. And because I thought that I'd just be able to roll for her anytime during that year, but apparently not. So I learned my lesson, and I was like, never again. Also, I did... Halloween Eustace came out during that Halloween, and I was lucky enough to actually get him in like 30 rolls. So maybe that's why I mistakenly thought I could get Lucio. And Halloween Eustace also had a very short stint as a very rare Earth buffer, besides Cagliostro and Gain, because he could buff your double attack and your, I think, crit rate or something like that. Back then, double attack was really useful. Nowadays, most characters have double attack. And the problem with Eustace, Halloween Eustace, was his mechanic used to be that if he didn't charge attack or use a Skybound art enough within like a certain number of turns, he would paralyze himself for one turn. So it was kind of painful to use him, and it wasn't until much later that they reworked his kit, but being Earth was painful back then. Oh, and then they released Vayne SSR, I remember that. And more. Sandalphon came out here, I see that. What Makes the Sky Blue 2 was around that time then. Started releasing like Alexiel and the Disciple characters, the Evokers. Weren't out around this time, but they were added to the game as data at least around this time. I have all the Evokers, and I have 3 of them uncapped. Kame, Lobelia, and Nier. I'm working on Hacelia right now because she's the strongest one. I do kind of want Frau, but I know she's not as worth it either as an uncap. You can see there's Joker too. We have her Persona 5 collab. Granblue, one of the few gacha games to survive, not shutting down their servers after a Persona 5 collab. And it was around this time they started having, like... At this time, back then, they still only had, like... During summer, they didn't release that many characters. And of the summer characters, only one of them would be male. But now they release a lot more characters during the summer, and at least a handful of male ones. Still not as much as the females, but... So, more and more characters getting added. You see more, like, alts of characters. At this point, they stopped adding, like, completely new characters to the pool for the most part, except for a couple event characters. And they started making it so most of the characters being added are alternate versions of pre-existing characters. And you can probably spot some cameo characters nestled within there as well. There's a Halloween Vayne. Jamil finally got his SSR, I remember that. Jamil's one of my favorite SR characters. We got Bowman, who is not Ire. And then now we're getting to the more recent characters, just added last year and this year. And that takes us to the end of this year, where the most recent character was Ochako, who was added for the April Fools from Sanrio collab. And then I have all the SR characters, which I have all the gacha SR characters. I don't have all the, well, except for those 4 summer characters. And there's a bunch of event-only SR characters I don't have from before I started playing, and also some special promo SR characters that you need to buy certain specific products to get. And they're not even that strong anyway, so it's not really worth it. I remember, like nowadays they don't really release that many SR characters, but one of the latest SR characters to be added was SR Joel, and there he is right there at the bottom. And at the time, like, Joel is one of my favorite R characters, so when they released the SR Joel, it'd been a long time since they released a new SR character by that point. So I was like, I really want him. I could roll for him, and he's an SR, so he'll be easy to get. So this was one of the few times I decided to roll without sparking. Bad idea. I think I rolled like 100 or 120 times thinking I would get him, despite being an SR, being a higher rate. I guess my luck was really bad, and I ended up blowing all those 120 rolls. I had to stop myself, because I obviously wasn't going to spark Joel, and I got mad at myself for breaking that streak of not sparking or not non-sparking things. I did get him eventually on a regular spark, just rolling up, but it took a long time until I did after that. And then we have the R characters. I remember back when I first started, R characters were actually really exciting to get, because I didn't know any of the characters, and you needed characters in your party. You actually had to use some of them. Like R Jasmine was like my only Earth healer for a very long time. And that's my roster of characters. Now the last thing I want to go over before we wrap up this video is my moons. So basically if you roll a duplicate character in this game, you get a moon. If you roll a duplicate R character, you get a bronze moon. A duplicate SR character, you get a silver moon. A duplicate SSR character, you get a gold moon. And I've been playing this game for a long time, and I have bad luck, so I have a lot of moons. And I've never spent them. Except for maybe at the beginning, I might have spent 1 moon on CP, because I was desperate for CP to unlock new job classes. So my friends always tease me, because they're like, Kiro, you should spend your moons. Because a lot of people, like the most coveted item for a moon is the Shiro's special pick ticket, which is basically just you get to pick a character that's on the current banner and recruit them. It costs 150 moons, and the reason why I haven't gotten any of these is because I don't want to use a pick ticket on a character and then roll a duplicate of them later, because then I'll feel like I wasted 150 moons. And I'll be so mad at myself if I do that. I even get mad if I surprise ticket a character and then I roll them later. The closer in proximity the duplicate happens to the initial recruitment is even worse. So if it happens like 2 years later, I don't mind as much. If it happens within the next couple months after I duplicate them, I don't like that. So to save myself, I just don't use the pick tickets. A lot of people like to use these in case of emergency if they release a character they really want and they don't have the crystals for. But I have this big hoard of gold moons that I'm like, I might as well just keep hoarding them. But they used to have these superlative weapons, which are weapons that cost 100 gold moons, and they were kind of niche weapons. Some of them were good and some of them were kind of useless. But nowadays no one really uses any of them. In fact, they gave everyone a free superlative weapon during this anniversary as a sign of goodwill, because they know that people don't really need them anymore. So I didn't really have anything I needed to use gold moons for. A lot of people use gold moons for Damascus ingots or Optimus globes now, but I've been lucky enough that I haven't needed to do that yet. I usually have enough of these saved up. But more recently, they've released these illustrious weapons, which are 150 gold moon weapons, but they're actually, for the most part, very powerful. And I want to buy this Hrunting, which is like the strongest of the illustrious weapons, and it's for Earth. I've been holding myself back. So I told myself after anniversary, I will finally get my Hrunting. I also kind of want the dark one. Erishkigal is supposed to be very good for bursting. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait until after the anniversary and accrue as many gold moons as I can so I can catalog them and show them off in this video before I purchase the item, because I'm not gonna probably roll again until summer. So from now until summer, I'm not gonna be getting any gold moons. So I just wanted to kind of show off all my gold moons here before I spend them. But I'll probably spend them sometime later this week and not right here on this video. But I just kind of want to show off my gold moon collection, which always baffles a lot of people. So when I say that I'm a hoarder, in games, not in real life, in games, I really mean it. Alright, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was kind of interesting to see my Granblue journey throughout the years. And if you're interested in the game, then I do recommend it. And if you're already a Granblue player, let me know what are your thoughts and how's your journey going. Alright everyone, thank you and take care. Bye bye.